Well, hello. Looks like Reaper might be having a little bit of a technical issue, and he's probably coming back in just a second.
Fucker. I am so sorry out there, addicts of the dam. My computer took a big old, what we call a steamy pile of dung. And I am actually using my Kindle Fire, so I apologize if things are not as seamless as they usually are. God damn it. And then I thought I had the right video pulled up, and it's the wrong one. I was going to try to start off with something kind of fun and funny, but since I fucked up, then here's for your viewing pleasure. Welcome to Monday. Monday. And as I can see by everyone watching, what is up, Yabelka? What's happening, Cody? Always good to see y'all. Make sure you are sharing this out anywhere and everywhere as always. And by how many people are watching right now, I can definitely tell that we are all. That's right. Once again, sorry, Christians, it didn't happen. Man, could you imagine how many people are going to be so pissed off when they go to church next Sunday and go, hey, why didn't it happen?
They don't care. They don't care. What?
I wonder how many people actually like stepped outside and was like, is it coming? Should I have my clothes on? Should I not have my clothes on? What should I be doing? And then there was so much fucking chatter online about it, obviously, today, that one of my friends like really hit it up right. They said, hey, since I know I'm not getting raptured today, for everyone that does, my neighbor, can I have your stuff?
Can I have your car?
Right. Can I take your car? Can I take your fucking TV? You know. Hey, what's up, Mouse Bong? She says, hope you guys are well. I'm lurking while cooking stir fry. And everyone else is dying, apparently, after what I just said. So, yeah. Happy not raptured day. There we go. Never been able to say that on a Monday night. But tonight what we have for y'all, and we appreciate y'all choosing us for your entertainment this Monday night, Morgrot Universe. We are going to be going through some iconic albums that have been released in the month of April. And we got some pretty meaty lists for you. So this should be pretty interesting. And as you know, whenever we do this edition of the show, we invite y'all to tell us about any that we may have forgotten about. And before we get into all this madness, we're going to take a quick commercial break to check out all the amazing entertainment and what Morgrot Entertainment has to offer. Check it out. That's right. Thank you for tuning in each and every week for all of the flagship shows, including Tracks of the Damned, the Goddamn Program, and of course, Reaper's Underground. But definitely go to morgrot.com for any and all of your needs, as well as the Morgrot magazine, any art and merch that is available. So what I've been noticing is that any video I play, it cuts off part of it, like from the beginning. So that's why there's like a delay. At least that's what it's showing me on my end, and it fucking sucks. All right. We're just going to deal with it because suddenly it's creeping up like a manic Monday. God damn. All right, Brother Hoofbeast, what is our first album?
Okay, well, I guess if I'm leading off, we're going to do April 3rd, 1987, and it's an iconic Canadian band that is a bit progressive but quite thrashy at this time, but really kind of poorly produced, but a lot of Voivod diehards will point to the Killing Technology album. So Killing Technology came out on April 3rd, 1987. My first album that I listened to was Nothing Face, and that is my favorite. That one came out in 1990. And before that, I think 1989 was Dimension Hatros. That's my second favorite album. This one, it's quite good, but you really have to deal with a terrible production with it. It's a pretty horrible production. But the artwork is something that they've pretty much stuck with for all of their albums for the most part, except for the Outer Limits. And I had to miss them last year, and hopefully they'll come through again, and maybe they'll come to Omaha, and Reaper and I can go check them out together.
Which would be badass, because that literally would be 30 years in the making for me, because I have never gotten to see them at any point in any time. So,
yeah, me too. Always, unfortunately, missed them.
Very indicative of that time in metal. That the sound quality is very muddy or flat sounding, much like every snare drum that was ever recorded in that particular time. Because honestly, I think a lot of engineers were probably drunk when they were doing this. So what sounds good when you're inebriated doesn't necessarily sound good when you're not. But definitely a killer fucking album. Songwriting is absolutely fantastic and very much ahead of their time, I would say. So if y'all out there in the Morgrot universe have not checked out that particular album, please do. It's a good one.
Like if you watch people going through and doing breaking down all of Voivod's albums, this one is often first, and you really have to listen hard to hear all of the genius in it, because it's really that poorly produced. Dimension Hatros is like Twice is better produced than that one. And then once you get to Nothing Face and then Angel Rat and then The Outer Limits, then you're on smooth sailing and the production's good. It's easier to listen to. But definitely progressive. Even back then, they always referred to Rush as a big influence. Blackie, the bassist, has a very distinct clanky bass tone, kind of similar to what's his name with Overkill, and maybe even gosh, I forgot his name in Anthrax. Not Joey Belladonna. It's another Joey, I think. But anyways, the Anthrax kind of bass tone that's clanky. Like you get this a lot, but he played like a big old BC Rich, real heavy duty, heavy basses, and that comes through. You can pick through Piggy's genius, and then the drummer, he sounds really boxy, but I think people really didn't know how to mic those kicks back then as well, especially if you're on less money.
Might have been the quality mics that they were using, especially for being an independent band back in those times. It could have been recorded in a basement, for all we know. I don't know too much of the details. So yeah, it definitely, in those days, if they were also more of a guitarist, they didn't really capture the drums the way, they do now, because engineers today were trained on how everything is supposed to sound versus just, concentrating more on guitars. And yeah, I have to agree with you big time on that. I literally feel that a lot of the way basses were recorded back then all had kind of a tink to it. I think that, because maybe one or more metal albums that had that sound were very, successful records. So people were probably like, yeah, I want to achieve that sound, because people probably liked it back then, believe it or not. Strangely enough, let me see here. Kyler says there's always a tech issue, but it's never a show without one. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Let's see. Cody here says, I found 2 for April. Death Angel debut, The Ultraviolence, April 23rd of 1987. And damn it, man. One of those was on my list. But I'm glad that you brought that up. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that.
We'll still need to talk about it. Like that Death Angel album is probably, that's their big breakthrough. Like I really like Act 3, which came out I think right after it. But a lot of people think Act 3 is kind of a sold out album.
Ooh, yeah, we'll have to delve a little deeper into that when you bring that one up next. Okay, here's a goodie that came out in April back in I think this was in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, either 95 or 98. The album cover was so considered offensive that they had to do a different cover for it, because this band, in the death metal world, was definitely the most blasphemous and satanic for our time, especially back in the 90s. At least I think so, outside of black metal, of course. How can we not forget this album that came out? If it'll come up. Hey, there it is. Once Upon the Cross. There is an alternate version of this front cover, and it is way, way more blasphemous. And I mean, it's exactly what we expect to come from them, especially at that time, because Glenn Benton was definitely a soldier for the cause, if you will. Anything that we could tear apart is great when it comes to, the other side of the coin. We'll just say that. And very ferocious record. His voice was, I'd say, in its prime, which is crazy because here we are in 2024 and it's still that damn good. But even back then, just an amazing voice, the way he kind of goes between the lows and the highs at the same time. The guitars, I think, could have been clearer on this record, as well as the drums, because, doing the blast back in those times was not well recorded like it is today. So there are moments in there that, it could have been proved upon, but it's still Deicide, and it's a great fucking record. And if you're a Deicide fan, it should be in your catalog.
Probably my second favorite Deicide album, behind the self-titled first album that came out.
Oh,
and I'm telling you, I'm so excited. When that new album drops soon, we have got to cover that one, because the new one really sounds like they're going back to that older, much more aggressive tone to me. Like, it's really good.
Yes. Very nasty. And he's got even more to say today than he did back then. So, and let's face it, when they come through, and I know they will come through, you and I are going to be there front and fucking center.
Hell yeah. I would see them anytime. And they will almost guaranteed play Dead by Dawn. I love hearing that. Anything off the first album, I love hearing that. And Glenn talks a bit, but man, he belts it out the whole flipping time. And they've got a new guitarist now.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah. All right, what do we got next for them?
Oh, hell, what are we going to do now? Let's go to... we're going to do some Priest. So we do...
There it is.
Judas Priest came out with, and this is not my favorite, but it definitely has some bangers that were on the radio way back in the day. And this album, British Steel, came out on, where is it? April 14th, 1980. Mousebong and Cody, where were you in 1980?
Hey, what's up, Achilles? Good to see you, brother.
So probably the most memorable song from that album is going to be Breaking the Law, Breaking the Law, dun, dun, Breaking the Law. That song,
I mean,
it's either that one or it's Mousebong's mantra, Living After Midnight.
And these were good like metal kind of party like rock out songs. It wasn't anything like Van Halen that's just like so tongue in cheek, and Rob's voice was fantastic. Even though it was a little bit lighter hearted, especially Living After Midnight, but when he sang, it was still like, oh man, the sheer power of this man's voice, and actually very well recorded. Everything was very clear, and everybody stood out. Although the bass in those times were not necessarily to the front. You could hear it, but it was under. You know what I mean? They didn't really bring it forward. Let's see. Achilles says Steeler 2. I guess that's another good track off of that one. Mousepong says, damn right. If I can get it to come up. Oh, she says, and I was born in 88, laugh, cry face. So where were they? The question is, or the answer is, they weren't thought of yet. boy, does that make me feel old, because what was that, 84? Oh man, I was in fucking elementary school, like third grade, third or fourth grade, one of those. I know it was. Cody says I was born in 92. Well, that's okay. There's some great iconic black metal and death metal records to come out during the time that you first hatched. So don't feel bad, brother.
Yeah, unfortunately, the place that I go to find all of these dates for these releases, it's somebody who I can tell was very much interested in 80s metal. So a lot of heavy metal. That shows up. They love fucking Sabotage. They love Riot. Like, they love these early 80s metal bands big time. So what you hardly see, and what I have to go through from now on, is like Satyricon. Like, I love Satyricon. I've gone through, and like, I don't know that we've ever even brought them up on any of these. So just now I went through looking up Satyricon just to say, hey, maybe they got a release in April, and they didn't. At least I know of from looking on Spotify. And I'm realizing, like, and I have known that the source that I get everything from is not giving us a really broad
stuff. Yeah. What I do, and just a little tip from the Reap, is that I literally put the genre name in, and somebody somewhere in some kind of independent like press site literally will bring up bands that were unsigned or on so small little labels that nobody else really covered them, and then especially for like that early stuff before it got bigger. So that might help. But you know what, though? British Steel, though, it's iconic record either way.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We have to talk about that one. There's several of them on here that we just have to talk about, because after we got through, December was difficult.
Oh, my goodness.
November was a little bit difficult because people don't like to release, bands don't like to release so much then. But
no,
boy, it's been smooth
sailing. Hell yeah. So let's see. Next on my list, got some goodies here because I didn't want to mirror too much of what you had going on. Now, most people, I will tell you up front that they prefer this vocalist with his original band and not so much on his solo. And some of you prefer his solo stuff over his stuff with his first band, but this was like their second major effort, and it seemed like the sky's the fucking limit. This was romp stomp fucking metal that you could just really sink your teeth into. All kinds of like little fun overdubs thrown in here and there, but still at its core, very much metal. They covered Children of the Grave for the Nativity in Black double disc, and it was fucking amazing. I am talking about White fucking Zombie. Me personally, I really enjoyed Rob a lot more with White Zombie. Not to say that I don't like his solo stuff, but guys, if you go back and you listen to these four amazing, out of nowhere musicians that came out in the 90s, Astro Creep 2000 was just a sick, killer record. There were probably a few tracks on there that maybe I didn't care too much for because it got a little too preset heavy. Because Rob likes to throw a lot of those things into the mix, but guitar wise, he had John Tempesta, formerly of Testament, beating on this record and literally made it heavier, even though what he was playing was simpler, but he still brought the power. And I think that really made a big difference. And then, of course, he followed him into the solo record after that. But solid effort from them. And like I said, it was like, what the hell happened? Why? What the hell's going on? You know, the next thing you see, it's like, it's not White Zombie, it's Rob Zombie. So if you are a fan of those earlier days, that one should also get a spin every now and again, because it's fucking fun. I don't know. What do you think of these?
It is fun. It's an album you can dance to every now and then. It does. It's
Groove
more,
on.
it's more industrial laden, like more human than human is the main song that I remember. That album was kind of a sellout to me, like personally. Like I really loved La Sexorcisto that came out right before it. That fucking album is banger, like 4.5 out of 5 stars, maybe 5 out of 5 stars. That album is straight up amazing, with groove, with heaviness, and also taking us in a little bit more groove than Metallica, but in a way it reminded me of Metallica, and kind of like mirroring Pantera a little bit in the groove kind of zone.
Yeah, the guitar riffs weren't as difficult or chuggylicious, but simple in a way that, like I said, everything was like an anthem. He got known for that. Sing stomp is what they used to call it, that he doesn't do anymore. So it's like, I don't know. I still like it. There's some tracks on there. Do I give it a 5 out of 5? Fuck no, I don't. I would say more like a 2.5 out of 5.
That's what I would give it. Yeah.
Because like I said, there's just a few songs on there that are very enjoyable. And like I said, look at the difference. Look at the difference between what he's done in his solo versus with White Zombie. So that's why I brought that up. I feel like they don't get talked about enough.
No, it's good to have we have a bunch of variety to throw out.
Hell yeah, we do.
Well, my next one is definitely a legendary album. Most people who grew up in the 80s and were really into thrash, they love this album. This is not my favorite offering from Testament, but it is, I can't argue its place in metal, especially in the Bay Area, San Francisco, when to me that was the kind of home of extreme metal at that time.
Right.
The fans were crazy. They were moshing. Exodus played regularly. Metallica moved up to be up there. We had Slayer visiting up there and playing quite a bit as well. So like the bigger thrash bands were going up there, but it was mostly anchored by Exodus, and then number 2 by Testament. And I'm talking about the album The Legacy. And The Legacy is see, that Over the Wall is probably the biggest hit on there, and maybe Burnt Offerings, but Do or Die is really good. Apocalyptic City. This album is much better produced than like the Voivod album. So you can definitely hear what's going on. I really like Chuck Billy's vocals in this. Alex and then Eric Peterson are really on it with the riffs. Practice What You Preach came out 2 albums later, and they really seem to kind of,
my favorite.
Yeah, I really like that album, but a lot of people like say, oh, they got that ballad on there, and people didn't like that. The San Francisco Bay Area diehards didn't really like that as much. They were trying to make it big. They were trying to seize the moment and be like Metallica. But for that Practice What You Preach album, I did not like how they mic'd the drums for that album.
Yeah. Some things there were very excessive. There is such a thing as too much snare drum. I didn't like the way the the double kick sounded either. It sounded like pops instead of booms.
Mhm.
You didn't really feel it. You know what I mean? But the thing I love so much about Testament is they're the band that didn't have a shtick. Slayer was doing the whole satanic thing. That was all they talked about. That's all they ever talked about. That, war, whatever. Anything that was just massive death. Chuck Billy has always been an amazing lyricist, covering all types of topics, and a sound of their own. They didn't quite, I don't know, they didn't sound like everybody else. And I will still say that I feel like the whole idea of the Big Four Testament should have been part of that.
Yeah, I definitely like Testament better than Anthrax. Anthrax is who gets booted off the island for sure for me. I would have put Testament in there for sure. I've seen Testament a couple of times. Chuck Billy always sounds great. Eric and Alex are always great. The bassist, man, I don't care about that so much. Drummer, I didn't care about the drumming all that much, but the guitar solos are so good. Eric Peterson is Eric is mostly a rhythm guitarist, but Alex Skolnick's guitar solos are just outstanding. And what a nice guy! And man, that dude can play some jazz, like traditional jazz on like a Gibson 355 or a Gibson 335. He's really good.
Nice. Hell yeah. I've always enjoyed their guitar wankery, if you will. A band that I'm going to bring up is not one that I think gets talked about too much. I don't know if we've even mentioned them before ourselves, but as I was going through the archives, I had come across it, and then I went and put it on. I was like, you know what? This is actually a pretty decent band overall. And I think I did listen to them a while back, and I hope that I can barely see my icon, but hopefully this is the right one. Yep. Therion. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Lapaka Cliffoff? Probably not saying that right at all. But they are a little bit different than everything that was going on around them. They started in 1990 with their first record. But let me see here. I had to get this. Now I know that they're out of Sweden, and we know Sweden is pretty infamous for good metal. And after I got to, like I said, listening to a little bit, they are a little thrashy. They're a little death metal, kind of a cornucopia. A lot of what they kind of basically say as far as their influences, Slayer's a big one. Blitzkrieg is another big one. I don't know if you've actually listened to this at all, Hoofbeast, but it's actually not too bad. What was that?
Never heard of them.
No. Yeah, they've been around the last 30, 40 years. It says Celtic Frost had basically introduced the female element to extreme metal onto Mega Therion in 1985, which is why Therion, they are a female and male vocal mix. So it's probably not something, I mean, if you like Cradle of Filth and like that element between female and more harsh vocals from a male singer, this is kind of what you're getting. They've been doing it since they started. So that was just kind of the catalyst for this band. So Pretty damn heavy, excellent singing, very decently produced as well. So if you're looking for something different to check out, I mean, give it a roll. I think they've inspired a lot of the female wave of more extreme metal over in Europe there, because we're getting a fuck ton of them nowadays. It's true. Almost oversaturated, which is, you guessed it, a bad thing.
Yeah, now that everybody can record in their home like I do, kinds of stuff, but you know, the trouble therein lies with, yeah, I can play, I'm a guitar wanker, not talking about me, like I'm not a wanker, I'm not that good at guitar. But there's some people, they know how to play, but they don't understand art and they're not original. And so they're just copying stuff. And I'm so fucking bored with so many bands. I don't care how well you're produced. If you don't bring something different to the table or something that's really, really catchy and really well done, like Marduk, their last album is perfectly made. I love that album. Wattains from 2 years ago, perfectly made black metal. Nothing new, nothing groundbreaking in it, but it's perfectly well done. Like, I'm really into Artificial Brain right now, and I've got back in touch with Ulcerate. I'm doing a deep dive into Ulcerate again.
Nice.
Cool.
Gillies.
Yeah, back when tapes were around. But like, I'm into those bands, Thanafaxath, Mithridatum, Ahab, bands that are doing something different. Like, that's what really, really inspires me, and that's what I look for all the time.
Hell yeah. Well, I just think that, you know, back in 1990, that, you know, this was a more extreme form of metal. Like I said, thrashy, death style, but adding a female element into it made it a little bit more interesting, because there wasn't really anything like that going on then. You know, Cradle didn't really start getting noticed and having that female backup singer, you know, until a little after that. So they were out first. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess I will stay in the Bay Area, and this is another iconic first album. Not terrible production, decent production. I think this was the first Exodus album I ever got, and it is Bonded by Blood. Bonded by Blood came out April 25th, 1985. And the album cover, I don't know why they used this one, because this is the one that came out in the 90s. I guess they were trying to censor it. But the one they had that I got was two babies, and one of them had pointy kind of devil ears, and it looked like he was grabbing the other one, and they're on a bed or something. And that's what I have. That's what I remember. But because I'm moving to Omaha in a few weeks, I have packed all my CDs already. They're all out of here, so I can't grab it.
Let me see if that was actually a choice.
But
okay. Yeah, I think we're talking about, they probably, yeah.
Yep, that's it. Yep, that's it.
How cool. The idea of the the angel and the devil together. I like it. I mean, what can we say about Exodus? They are very, very unapologetic in every way since their inception. Fucking fast thrashing, excellent guitar work. I mean, they have the great Gary Holt. You know, and it still kills me to this day that if it wasn't for Metallica, Kirk Hammett might still be with them.
Yeah.
I wonder how that changed things.
I mean, Exodus is still putting out good, never have sold out albums.
That's right.
Ever. They have a couple albums that I think are kind of overrated, but they're good they're still good albums.
For sure.
But when we look at the track list, they were really edgy for that time, possibly inspired by the edginess of Slayer and maybe Venom. So you have the self-titled song on there, Exodus. Bonded by Blood is kind of an anthemic, iconic song from them. You know, we have A Lesson in Violence. That was a big one for me when I listened to it way back. Like they've got Strike of the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's from way back when, we had the PMRC rearing its ugly head and the Satanic Panic. And these guys were just like, fuck that. I don't give a shit. Strike of the Beast, Deliver Us to Evil. Like, that's really blasphemous and really is like a bird.
Absolutely.
Do all the Christian bullshit. But just imagine that scene. I wish I could have been there and go to that. I forget the name of the club, but there was that club in the Bay Area, San Francisco, that Megadeth finally went up and played once Dave had got the boot. And, really, Exodus to me seemed like they were the front runners up there, and they had the biggest following up there.
Oh, absolutely. Hell yeah. So
Exodus,
definitely
Bonded by Blood.
We need that one in your collection. You will dig it, especially if you love that good old-fashioned thrash that was just nasty as hell. Love it. All right. So here's one I'm sure Cody is going to appreciate. I know you don't like them that much, and that's okay. But we're getting into the realm of black metal, and of course, I will put the word orchestral/symphonic into it. But this 2007 April release of the great Dimmu Borgir is legit their first concept album. So first time they ever took a stab at having one continuous story that they were focusing on. And I personally feel this is one of the best ones they've done, besides a lot of their earlier stuff as well. But just a very, very well done record, very passionate, very brutal in its own way. If you don't mind like I said, the orchestral side that kind of plays into it. And we're talking about this one in Sante Diaboli, which actually translates into In League with the Devil. And they're covering a medieval story from history. And of course, it has to do with the nasty Christianity forces. But it's located in medieval Europe. It is about a priest who begins to doubt his faith and then ends up taking the place of the Antichrist. It's really fucking dark shit. It's very heavy as well. If you are a Dimmu fan, this was definitely one of the better ones, in my opinion, since Nicholas Barker showed up in the band for the first time after leaving Cradle. So I loved it. And he said he just sort of has this awakening and realizes that he has different abilities and different powers and is learning more about the dark side, says the guitarist. And I mean, it's there. You can pull it out. The growls on this one are really fucking good. They're nice range all the way through. It's like taking King Diamond, but putting it on steroids and a hell of a lot fucking faster.
Mm-hmm.
And you know me, man. I'm a sucker for a good concept record if it's done well. Which is why, to this day, my favorite Cradle of Filth record will always be Cruelty and the Beast, because it flowed so good together. Sometimes some of these bands have a good record, but it's laden with too many different fucking directions.
Mm-hmm.
King did that a few times, and it kind of hurt on some records. Merciful Fate did the same thing, where they were too all over the place with the overall feel for the record. And I feel like, you know, if you're not that big of a Dimmu fan, you'll probably dig this one.
Yeah, always love that album cover. When I was going through my list today, they used a different album cover.
Oh, really?
But that's definitely an iconic album. If you want to give symphonic black metal a chance, that's a great album to go with. Like, that's perhaps their best.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. It's like, you know, things got a little too dumb prior to that. And I think that was, you guessed it, once Nicholas was no longer in the band. That's when things kind of go to shit. And then they have to refine themselves and, you know, get better creatively. And I feel like that was a pretty decent record for them.
And always great stage costumes.
They definitely didn't try to piggyback off of Cradle, which they very well could have. Shit, I don't think they really stole from anybody.
Mm-mm.
They were a little bit more original, so good for you guys.
Yep. All right. So we're still struck in thrash land with me. We're going to go back to Canada.
Canada.
So this album is a really good album. I would rate it like a 3 out of 5 stars. If they had every song like Alice in Hell, then I would give this Annihilator album a much higher rating. But Alice in Hell is that's Enslaved.
Ah, god damn it.
Annihilator. Yeah. The Annihilator. And this album came out on April 17th, 1989. And Alice in Hell is the first song that I heard off of it. And I think the guy's name is Jeff, is the guitarist. And the way he played that flying V, he had a white flying V in the video. He had the short bangs and the long hair, and now he's bald. And he's played with. I saw him with Judas Priest. He was playing guitar for Judas Priest.
Oh no shit!
But you could tell back then his hair was not thick. I mean, not thinning on the top. Like, I was surprised to see that he had his head shaved, but his hair was very thin, kind of like a cat.
So kind of Kerry King before he went all bald.
yeah, maybe he didn't look like Kerry King. Looked a little thin on the top, and I didn't see this coming out of Jeff. I forgot his name, his last name, but
interesting.
I got introduced to Annihilator via one of the Hard and Heavy VHS cassettes that I bought. And
nice.
So I was in the Army all by myself. There was nothing to do where I was. And so on Friday nights, I went to the guitar store. And if I didn't have to buy new strings or, look for a new pedal for a guitar, then if there wasn't a movie out, then I went to the record store, had dinner, and then I went back to the base or the fort, and then I listened to music the whole night. And I may have gone to like Blockbuster and rented some stuff, but when I first heard this song, I loved it. I wasn't crazy about the the vocalist. But
Mhm.
now, like as in all things, like now I like James LaBrie from Dream Theater. I like his voice. I like Geddy Lee's voice a whole lot. Like that doesn't bother me. But as you mature, you kind of open your mind a little bit. But this guy did a great job. The video is really good. It's kind of like a nightmare in somebody's head.
Mhm.
But,
Ooh, I like those types of material.
yeah. But an
Always
iconic song, excellent. This song is like a 5 out of 5. But the album is quite good, but it doesn't hold up to Alice in Hell throughout. But really good one.
Hell yeah. So my next one, which is kind of one of the craziest stories in extreme metal, death metal. I don't think you could really call them thrash, but they put out their first record in 1987. But they suddenly, well, no, they had one more record come out after that. I've never seen a band not be able to put out a record for 26 years and then suddenly have a triumphant third record after 26 years after their second album. And suddenly it's like they're here, man, and everyone's digging them again. I am talking about the band that is named after something very near and dear to us. There it is. And we're talking about the band Satan. And the album that came out in April of 2013. They had put out their third record, Earth Infernal, which I'm struggling to find on here. Where'd you go? Give me 1 second here. No, I am so sorry. This one is actually 2022. Wow, boy, was I way off. But nonetheless, the story, goes. They came back team with Life Sentence and have been going strong ever since. And they haven't lost a step. They sound better than they ever have. I mean, people really dug this band back in the late 80s. So what the hell? I don't know any other band that could do that, especially in this style. Very dark, as you could imagine, very blasphemous, all around excellent band. Gave it a listen today and was like, damn, where the fuck, what rock have I been living under? Never knew they existed until I started poking around for some, black metal and death metal that had come out in April. And they came up and I gave it a listen and was like, woo-wee! My favorite tracks on this is Trial by Fire, Time to Die, if you're pissed off, like most of us are throughout the week. Excellent track to get down to. I would also tell you to check out Into the Mouth of Eternity. But really not a bad tune on the record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't listened to them a whole lot. I never have bought any of their albums, but they are a good band. I've always loved their logo too, and how bold and committed to name your band Satan, the adversary.
Well, they obviously get it, to be perfectly honest, and they live up to the name. And they're not corny, which is really good because I was a little worried about that. But after reading, they had 2 albums in the 80s, waited 26 years to put out the third one, and they just couldn't say enough good stuff about it. I wanted to see if this guy was just a diehard fan, or are they the real deal? Yes, they are. So,
all right, we got some different ones to go and look into.
absolutely.
Well, I believe that Enslaved came into their own with this kind of prog black metal. They kind of like, they're really unique. You can hear the black metal influence, but they've definitely moved away from the traditional tremolo picking now on this album. But on, I think it was April 27th. Let's see, April 28th of 2003, Enslaved came out with Below the Lights, and this is in my top 3 of my favorite albums by Enslaved. My favorite one is Ethica. Odini is my favorite album that they came out with, I think in like 2010 or 2011. But in this album, on this album, they have really brought the prog, and it still has that black metal feel. It has the black metal vocals for sure, which are a more relaxed and very legible. Like you can really hear every word that he's saying. It's a little bit of a more upbeat and clean feel. Definitely not black and roll like what Satyricon evolved to. And I won't say evolved to, because they still wrote amazing riffs. They just wanted to get out of what everybody else was doing in Scandinavia with the really fast tremolo picking with blast beats, because these like Satyr from Satyricon is a flippin' artist. He's a riff merchant, and he's always writing excellent riffs. But this is an album. This is one, like I was gonna say, like I would say get Ethica Axioma Odini. That's my favorite. And then I would say get Frost, which was one of their first albums, and that's a really good, more kind of atmospheric, more traditional black metal. And then you move into Below the Lights, and Below the Lights is just an outstanding surprise of a record.
Yeah, and you know, what you mentioned there about Satyricon and wanting to kind of step out of that light, I really don't blame them. They did it really well, very enjoyable. So I don't think, you know, their fans wouldn't like it, but I mean, if they were diehards and they just wanted them to keep doing the same old shit, you know, then fine. But I think bands should do that, especially when you're that oversaturated in Scandinavia. But yeah, I really do dig this record a lot, because I started going through it after I seen it on your list, and because I got to give everything a spin as I'm going through. So I dig it.
And the songwriting that they do, they go back into their history. They go back to their roots, their Viking lore throughout. And so you're not getting songs like, you know, good for Cannibal Corpse. I love Cannibal Corpse, wearing the shirt. But those aren't lyrics that I really give even half a shit to read or listen to. I'm listening to Corpse Grinder as an instrument for the most part, until they get to like maybe a chorus, and it's kind of funny, some of them. But intellectually speaking, Enslaved are going to bring you that, if that's one of your needs intellectually in songwriting, provide that for you. It's very thoughtful, very mature. This isn't greasy kid stuff. This is really well. It's a really, really well made album. And like for instance, the first track is As Fire Swept Clean the Earth. Like, And it's a lot of times they're doing kind of concept albums as well.
Right.
And in a way, maybe it isn't, but there's so much, they're always reaching back into history for their subject matter for their albums.
I mean, there's so much there, and I love it when there is a super heavy band that comes from there, and they bring that. You know, there's a lot of like heartstring pulls that when you're listening to it, and you just kind of like close your eyes and go, I can imagine what life was like, you know, at that time, and everyone trying to infiltrate them and eradicate them and try to change their beliefs and stuff. I won't go too deep into it, but you know what I mean? This record definitely brought the pain with this one, and not necessarily just, you know, you think of Viking bands, you know, Amon Amarth, they're more talking about just they're focusing on the gods and the sagas that are involved there. These guys are talking about what, you know, these atrocities that, you know, took place during those times, because there was just so much nasty shit. You know, everyone always says, "Goddamn England." Them fucking kings, man, and they wanted something or wanted to control people. That's how they did it, and you know, it was a dog-eat-dog world, and this album definitely brought that to life. So I dig it quite a bit.
Yeah, like when we talk about Enslaved and what they have become, like their last album, Heimdall, from last year, is an excellent album. I saw them last year as they toured that album. Name a band that sounds just like them.
Right.
They have forged their own style. It's very much steeped in prog while being blended in such a different way, having the kind of black metal sensibilities. But excellent. This album is like 4.5 out of 5 stars, by the way. It's like I'm guaranteeing you something you're probably going to enjoy. Just don't expect it to be traditional black metal, because it's not. It's just excellent metal, kind of blackened prog metal.
Absolutely. And, you know, there's been so many great albums that have come out in April throughout the years. It's literally fucking ridiculous. So I'm just going to kind of shotgun a few that I have here. You know, if you were or are a Judas Priest fan, a Rob Halford fan, I think you remember a band called Fight.
Mm-hmm.
Ta-da! A Small Deadly Space came out it was either 95 or 98 April of that year. Excellent record. And it was very I remember Headbangers Ball showing a video from it. I mean, it was Halford in a much heavier setting. Mm-hmm. If you could kind of imagine the ferocity of Painkiller and more of a thrashy kind of, you know, a heavier way. I always enjoyed him in this band. Some other releases as well, if it'll come up. Suffocation, Despise the Sun, came out, and I believe this was also in the 90s as well. It was either 95, 98, because those were the 2 years I looked up. Again, Suffocation, excellent fucking death metal band. Tech Death, actually, I think it is. So if you like that real extreme, complicated kind of metal, I love the artwork on this one. Heavy as fuck, excellent record. And do you have any more yourself? Because I only have like one more.
Yeah, I have a pile of them. So Ronnie James Dio rejoined Black Sabbath, and instead they didn't call themselves Black Sabbath anymore. We just talked about this 2 weeks ago when we covered Ronnie James Dio, and on April 2009. Ronnie James Dio with Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Vinny Appice came out with Heaven and Hell and The Devil You Know. We've already kind of discussed this 2 weeks ago. It's a really, really good album. So sad that he had been diagnosed with his cancer. I think it was stomach cancer just 6 months before the album came out.
Still went?
Yeah.
I don't know too many people that would do that.
Yep, I know. On April 28th, 1998, the iconic band Nile came out with Amongst the Catacombs of Nephrin Ka. And I love
Fucking Nile rule.
Nile can't do anything wrong with me. I've seen him a couple of times. Flipping love Nile. Carl is a freaking guitar god. Love his slow, deep vocals when they slow stuff down. So they're fast. They've got that Egyptian kind of sound, that cultural kind of sound that comes when we think of Egypt. And then they slow things down. And Carl's vocals are just brutal. Incantation, one of their best albums is Diabolical Conquest. That came out on April 28th, 1998, same day that Nile's album came out. And here, if you like Death Doom, this is for you. Just saw these guys a couple years ago. Love Incantation. Another one that is another big album, maybe their best album on their list, is from Arch Enemy, Wages of Sin, April 25th, 1995. And
95 was a great for metal. Really was.
Yeah. And this is an outstanding bit of groundbreaking vocals from Angela Gossow. Like, just I hate when she left. She was just about my age, and she was awesome. I don't know why she left. I think there was some controversy, but she really made really anthemic choruses in their songs.
Absolutely.
Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell came out on April 25th, 1980. How could we not mention that album? We just talked about that one 2 weeks ago when we talked about Ronnie James Dio.
It's like everything came full circle.
Hell yeah. If we go back April 24th, 2001, and Reaper doesn't like this album, but I've always liked this album. There's not much to not like. It's a little bit more produced than the others, and they're relying a little bit more on technology to get their sound. But Fear Factory came out with Digimortal. I still really like this album quite a bit. Cody already mentioned Death Angels, the Ultraviolence. That came out on April 23rd, 1987. This is probably their defining album. It's an outstanding album. That's one you should have in your list, especially if you really dig thrash. Soulfly came out with their self-titled. This is probably their most iconic album, the self-titled Soulfly, and that came out on April 21st, 1998. It was so hard to just come up. I think I had 6 that I talked about tonight in depth. On April 21st, 1992, probably one of my biggest disappointment albums came out, but still a lot of people love this album. So just because I don't find it to be as good as Obituary's Cause of Death, The End Complete came out on April 21st, and I was really disappointed by it. I thought it was a flat, uninspired album to me.
The masses kind of agreed on that, though. definitely wasn't up to what we know of them to that point.
Yeah, after having Slowly We Rot and then Cause of Death, both of those albums were kind of, they helped define the early death metal genre, and the down tuning in Slowly We Rot, where they came out the gates with, it was so damn good and almost death doom in a way. It was so slow at times. And they would just do a bar chord over two of the lower end strings, and I love the way they would let that shit ring out. And they did it right in the very beginning of the title, the first track on Cause of Death. But Obituary, like those first two albums, those are my favorites. And after that, I haven't ever cared for anything quite as much. Oh gosh, Motorhead's Iron Fist came out April 17th, 1982. I mean, these are big albums. This is the last album with the three that we saw with for the Ace of Spades. That's another iconic album. Blind Guardians, probably one of their breakout albums, came out April 14th, 1989. It's called Follow the Blind. That's a defining album for them.
Absolutely.
Excellent fucking. Yeah. And that's a power metal band that I can stomach easily. I do like it.
Most people can as well. Yeah. They are, they bring something different to the table with that.
And on April 14th, 1986, Judas Priest came out with Turbo. And that's a song that,
tell you,
that's an album that a lot of people don't care for because they felt like it was overproduced, but there are 2 or 3 songs on there that, like, if you get I'm your turbo lover, if you get that in your head, it's hard to get that damn song out of your head.
And it's freaky. Mm-hmm. Gives me the creeps a little bit.
I love that album. April 12th, 1989, Cannibal Corpse came out with The Bleeding.
Yup.
There was another one that they came out with. I forget which one. It was the last one with Chris Barnes. That one came out in April as well. I think it was the 3rd album. But it's not The Wretched Spawn, but I forgot which one it is. And if we go back to Dark Angel, on April 10th, 1990, Dark Angel came out with Act 3. A lot of Death Angel hardcore fans don't like this album as much because it was a little bit more commercially produced and catchy. But I remember I bought this album when it came out in 1990. I fucking loved it. I listened to it like crazy until the stupid cassettes started to, you know how they would get stuck and the wheels wouldn't turn well anymore? It did that shit on me. And, you know, it gets eaten and you're like, oh my God. And you try to pull it out carefully and try to straighten out the tape. Yeah, cassettes to me are a bit overrated for that because I always hated that. Like a CD and a vinyl, I can take care of it. Nobody else can get into my shit, and I can prevent it from having. I can prevent it from having scratches.
Unless your, car somehow fucks with it. That was the only bad thing about CD disc changers in cars. Well, more graphics. Oh, you got more?
I got 2 more.
Gotcha.
Sepultura's iconic Beneath the Remains, not my favorite. I actually liked Chaos AD better and Arise better than that.
Big time.
But it's a really good album. It's just the production wasn't great on it. That's another album I would like for them to go back into the studio like they did for Morbid Visions and re-record that. That came out on April 7th, 1989. And lastly, Rob Lowe, his first album with Candlemass was Death, Magic, Doom. That came out on April 3rd, 2009.
Hell yeah.
All of
Doesn't
those
get-
albums are flipping amazing. We had to talk about those albums. Those
Yes.
albums, like April was loaded with, you know, if not for the genre, a defining genre album, a band's defining moment or their real
Yeah.
breakthrough.
Absolutely. It was a time for some established bands to up their game or take chances. And for other bands, it was like the first thing that got them really breaking through. Like you said, very groundbreaking moments for them. So, you know, check out each and every one of these. We had such a diverse list today, by far my most favorite ones yet, because you know, we're getting a little craftier in how we're finding other genres to be able to put in there, because like we said, a lot of these reporters online are so laden with like 80s metal. There's so much more. And we try to pick something from each era that really should be a part of your listening. If you're not already a fan of them, hopefully you learned about some new ones for you to check out and add to your playlist. You know, like I said, you don't always have to take our word for it, but you should at least check some of them out if it's in a genre of metal that you dig. So, as always, we thank you guys for coming out on a Monday. I know some folks have been kind of missing, which is okay. That happens from time to time. Don't forget, you can always catch the replay on YouTube and Facebook. That's Reapers Underground, Black Flame Entertainment, and Morgrot Entertainment. And, of course, Reapers Underground on YouTube. Check it out. You might learn something or be like, hey, I haven't listened to that record in a while. They were talking about it. Kind of inspired me to go back and listen to it and give it another spin. You know, because how many times do we come across an album that we're not too sure about, didn't really give it that much of a chance? Now's you know, a time that you can go back and give it an honest spin. Thank you for joining us this evening, and you know, for choosing us for the beginning of your week and to get you through this crazy week we have ahead of us. Man, it's like one foot in the fire and one on the ground. Today, we had the eclipse and all the stupid bullshit to see online about it. So you survived that, and we're still knee deep in retrograde right now. So if you're feeling a little imbalanced, watch us. Let us soothe you through all the chaos and the madness of this time, because we're not out of retrograde until almost the end of the fucking month. Oh boy. Fantastic. So always tune in to any of Morgrot Entertainment shows. We got the goddamn program coming up this Saturday, hopefully. And there should be a Reapers Underground later this week, so stay peeled to all the socials for that to find out who my guest will be, because there are so many independent horror films being filmed right now, and it's like online buzz city about these movies coming. So check that shit out. Thank you all again. Man, if you're going into work tomorrow, you just got to remember to make sure, if your boss is being a dick, give them one of those, and never lose sight of who you are, no matter what is going on in the world. And most importantly, stay heavy.